Muita coisa poderia ter dado errado. O Shai podia ser apenas um bom jogador, não um MVP. O menino da Universidade de Kentucky, desacreditado, virar o rosto da maior potência da liga não estava no caderno de apostas de muita gente. Mas aqui estamos. Ele não só deu certo, ele transcendeu. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander virou poesia em movimento. Comandou o jogo com uma calma que só os gênios têm. Ele não carregou as estatísticas, carregou uma franquia inteira nos ombros e provou noite após noite que toda dúvida sobre ele estava errada. E se o Jalen Williams não tivesse sido escolhido na 12? E se ele fosse apenas mais um bom role player num draft sem tanta expectativa? Hoje ele é, no mínimo, o segundo ou terceiro melhor jogador daquela classe. O J.W. não pede licença, ele impõe respeito. Barulhento, gosta de latir, ele se torna o braço direito do Shai e o motor que empurra esse ataque, conector de tudo que o Thunder tenta ser. O que ele faz em quadra não é normal para alguém com tanta pouca idade e tanta leitura de jogo. E se o Chet nunca tivesse voltado de lesão? E se aquele pé quebrado tivesse virado um ciclo de contusões? E se a pelve fraturada no começo dessa temporada tivesse nos tirado mais um ano dele? Mas não, ele voltou, ele resistiu e ele é o protetor de aro, o pivô moderno, o unicórnio que nos prometeram. Com ele, o Thunder não apenas defende, intimida. O Chet é o tipo de jogador que muda a estrutura do jogo sem dizer uma palavra. Ele simplesmente tá ali, isso já basta. E se o Isaiah Hartenstein tivesse preferido o conforto de um grande mercado? Ele poderia ter ficado em Nova York, poderia ter ido para qualquer contender mais badalado, mas ele escolheu vir para cá. Ele escolheu ser parte dessa loucura controlada que é o Thunder. E trouxe com ele algo que a gente não tinha, presença, rebote, físico, coração. Quando a bola parece perdida, é ele que mergulha. Quando o garrafão está congestionado, é ele que limpa. Em uma equipe tão jovem, ele foi o equilíbrio. E se o Luguentz Dort não tivesse evoluído? Se ele tivesse parado naquela versão esforçada, que só defendia bem e chutava mal. Mas o Lu Dort é mais que isso. Ele é o cão de guarda do perímetro. É o escudo do Shai. É o jogador que vira e vai marcar o melhor do outro time sem pensar duas vezes. Mas agora ele também mata as bolas. Ele também cria. Ele também responde. O Dort é símbolo de tudo que esse time representa. Esforço vira técnica. Garra vira confiança. Não é por acaso. E se o Mark não tivesse sido o técnico certo? Quantos treinadores são ótimos desenvolvedores, mas péssimos estrategistas? Quantos sabem ensinar, mas não sabem ganhar? O Mark não é nenhum nem outro. Ele é os dois. Ele acreditou quando ninguém acreditava. Ele viu o caminho quando ainda era só escombro. Ele deu um minuto, deu moral, deu estrutura. Hoje, ele comanda uma equipe que joga com um nível de maturidade que desafia a cronologia da NBA. O Thunder joga como um time que já perdeu muito, mas eles estão só começando. O episódio de hoje não é uma comemoração, porque ainda tem trabalho a ser feito. É o reconhecimento da improbabilidade, da loucura que é tudo isso ter dado certo ao mesmo tempo. É sobre parar por um segundo e olhar em volta para entender a importância de valorizar o agora. A gente tem 6 dias de descanso pela frente antes das finais, mas hoje, só hoje, a gente já está se sentindo realizado. Porque o Thunder é de verdade, porque o impossível já aconteceu. E porque isso aqui é só o começo. E se a gente aqui no Brasil se emociona, se entrega e vive tudo isso com intensidade, imagina quem tá lá, do outro lado, dentro da arena. Imagina quem vai para todo o jogo, quem entrevistou todos os jogadores e viu tudo de perto. Os bastidores, os silêncios, os aquecimentos, as coisas que a câmera não mostra. Hoje eu trouxe um desses caras. O Clemente escreve para diversos jornais, tem páginas, podcast e tal, em todos os jogos do Thunder nesses playoffs. Não só os jogos em casa, ele viajou para as cidades dos adversários acompanhando esse time como poucos. Eu bati um papo com ele sobre tudo o que vem acontecendo, sobre o que esse momento representa para quem vive isso de perto. Eu estou muito feliz de disponibilizar isso para vocês. A entrevista está, obviamente, em inglês. Ele é de Oklahoma, nasceu por lá. É um repórter do time presencialmente. E eu deixei, para quem não fala inglês, um documento aqui, um PDF, com a entrevista. Então, você pode acompanhar o que eu tô conversando com ele, enquanto ouve também ele falando em inglês, beleza? Logo depois da entrevista, a gente mergulha no jogo de ontem e fala um pouco sobre tudo que rolou. Vamos junto, porque esse momento é histórico. Clemente, you're originally from Oklahoma, so before we dive into your work as a journalist and everything you witnessed over the past seasons, I wanted to start with something more personal. So here in Brazil, even though there are a lot of Thunder fans, the city atmosphere doesn't quite shift during the playoffs. except for events like NBA House during the finals, which gathers around like 5,000 fans from all over the league and in each game, which is pretty nice. But what was like it for you when the Thunder first arrived in Oklahoma City, and how would you describe the current mood in the city now the team is back in the finals?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't remember much because that was like in 2008, and I was like around 9, 10 years old when that happened. But I do remember my earliest memories was probably the 2011, 2010 season, and I just remember that was kind of just the unexpected rise of the team going from, this young team filled with this 20, 21, 22-year-olds with KD, Russ, and Harden to, they make the West Finals in 2011, lose to the Mavs, and then they, you know, take the next step next year in 2012 and make the finals and eventually lose to the Heat. So it took everybody a little bit by surprise from what I remember where, this team, just like this iteration of um, this team was, ascending to the top of the NBA a lot faster than what most people anticipated. Um, but I just remember, there being like a Thunder fever when that happened where, you know, you couldn't drive past a gas station without somebody trying to sell you like knockoff Thunder playoff gear. Um, People flying, the Thunder flag on their cars attached to it or having it attached to their front porch. Um, so I'm seeing like a lot of parallels between, you know, when it, that time when the team first arrived here and then kind of becoming a title contender pretty quickly to what's currently happening right now, which is pretty cool to experience now as an adult compared to when, I was just a child back then.
Yeah, by the way, how was it yesterday? It was very loud from TV.
It was surreal. Like that was the loudest it's been all year. Like as the Thunder go deeper into playoffs, the playoff crowds have been a lot better. I think the Grizzlies series was kind of iffy, but credit to OKC. Like they really ramped it up here in the second round against Denver and in the West Finals against Minnesota. Um, but it was definitely surreal. One of those experiences where I'll be able to tell if I have kids or grandkids, I'll be able to tell them that hey, I was able to like be here in person in the flesh and kind of experience um, what kind of happened here in person, where the Thunder made the finals for the first time since 2012. And not only did they make the finals, like they kind of just cruised through the West with a 12-4 record and blowing teams out left and right like they did in the regular season.
Yeah, it was amazing. I cried. I was not okay. But as a journalist, you had the privilege of closely following the formation of this Thunder roster, right? What was it like to witness the building process firsthand and the gradual increase in attention the team was getting? Because I imagine right now the number of reporters covering the team must be like 3 times what it was just 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, insane! Like you don't even need to go back 2 years. Just go back to the first round against the Grizzlies. Like the amount of reporters and attention, like you said, compared to just a month ago in the first round it's multiplied by 10. You're seeing, people you see on TV all the time just walking by you from, Kendrick Perkins, Stephen A. Smith, even Michael Malone, Malika Andrews. Like they're all, that entire group of people is kind of, the face of the NBA media. So to kind of see them at Paycom Center and around OKC has been a little bit surreal. But yeah, it's been super cool. Like, zooming out, like I remember my first year on the beat full time was, um, you know, the year they made the playing tournament, and I covered the team, part time before then. But that was my first year where I was able to do this full time. Um, so to kind of see, you know, just kind of reflecting back on that, where, you know, the season before, like a lot of the practices were on Zoom because of COVID restrictions, and being talking to guys like um Poku or Moses Brown or Jalen Horde or Isaiah Roby, like those type of guys, going from that to now where you're having, we have guys like Shea being a household name and the MVP winner, J Dub's a household name, Chet as well. Mark's gone from this unknown, even locally, not a lot of people knew who Mark was when he was first hired to now being regarded as one of the best head coaches in the league and leading his team to an NBA Finals trip and one of the greatest regular seasons ever. It's been a little just surreal, just kind of being able to like witness all that firsthand and seeing them, gradually, you know, ascend among the, I guess, NBA hierarchy, where, just a few years ago, they were one of the worst teams in the league. And, now they're, probably the title favorite, regardless of who comes out the East between, New York and Indiana.
Yeah, you mentioned all those pieces, and something that always stands out to me with championship caliber teams is how united the groups become throughout the journey. But with this Thunder team, the sense of unity feels even stronger, maybe. These are very young players who seem to have found in each other a real family and kind of way to navigate fame and wealth so early in life. So, for example, last night when Shea won the Western Conference Finals MVP, the whole team celebrated with him, and then he passed the trophy around for everyone to hold. How would you describe that dynamic between them?
Yeah, I know it's kind of cliche to say, but everybody's kind of used this line, but they're kind of like an AAU team a little bit, where everybody's just, going in the same direction, everybody's on the same page, and that type of synergy is super important in an NBA franchise. We have countless examples where the opposite would kind of ruin a team and close a title window uh, sooner than most people thought because of egos and personality clashes and all that. And just because the fact that a lot of these guys are kind of at the same age and they've all kind of like, most of the team is homegrown in terms of like, they were drafted here or, they were taken off the scrap heap and given a chance to kind of develop here. They've all kind of been able to like witness their journey firsthand, for the most part. And then guys who don't fit under that category have been great locker room guys like Caruso and Hardenstein. Like Mark absolutely loved those guys. I mean, Mark called Hardenstein a badass a few weeks ago just because of his ability to kind of like, adjust to whatever role that the team needs from him. Um, so yeah, it's been super cool to kind of see them being all on the same page. And like I said, like you need a type of like you need your whole team to be on the same page to achieve what they achieved, and not only the team, but from ownership to GM to coach to the players to team employees. Everybody's pulling on the same rope together. They all are on the same page. There's no real clashes or whatever, and you're starting to, and now people are starting to realize like how valuable that is for an NBA franchise where you got your own Clay Bennett having complete full trust in Sam Presti, and you have Sam Presti having complete and full trust in Mark Day, and then you have Mark Day having complete and full trust in guys like Shea and the rest of the roster.
Yeah, and speaking of development, let's dive into the game. Throughout the playoffs, and especially in Game 5, we've seen the Thunder team build an identity rooted in defense. They've been one of the top defense team all season. But what makes the defense so unique isn't just the talent, right? It's the cohesion. From your perspective, what defines this team defensively, and how rare is to see such commitment to such a young group?
Yeah, it really starts with the turnovers because they lead the league in turnovers, and that's their way of avalanching teams on the scoreboard. They're kind of the polar opposite of the I guess Warriors back in the day, where they would just bombard you with 3 pointers and just kill you from the outside. With the Thunder, it starts on a defensive end. They strip the ball away from you, run in transition, score in a fast break, and we saw that sequence plenty of times yesterday in Game 5 against the Wolves, where they just looked shook and out of their element, and they were just creating. LKC was able to force all these turnovers, whether it was ripping the ball or disrupting passing lanes or you know textbook interceptions. Um, they were able to kind of run away on a scoreboard because of that, to the point where this game was already decided at halftime. And what they were able to do in that stretch, we've seen it all year, where it the opposing team kind of keeps it close for the first half, and then in the first quarter, like within the blink of an eye, you're down by 20 plus and it's already over. So this has been the NBA's best defense, no matter what stat you want to use. Like if you want to use traditional team stats or advanced analytics, or if you want to just use your eyeballs as well. No matter what metric you use to like determine how good a defense is, the Thunder have been at the top all year, and you're starting to see that, and you're seeing that translate over to the playoffs as well. And I mean, it's kind of looking like the Thunder are probably maybe on their way to a title just because of that side of the ball, and that's always been the side of the ball that Mark prides himself the most. Um, so that's just what they've been able to do defensively. Like they got three of the best POA defenders in the league on in their team, and Lou Dort, Caruso, and Casey Wallace, and then in the interior, if you manage to get past them, you gotta meet up with Chet, who's one of the best rim protectors, or Hardenstein, who's also a solid rim protector, or J-Dub, who's one of the most versatile defenders in the whole league. Um, so this team's just filled with high quality defensive personnel. That's the side of the ball that they built this team around, and now you're starting to see kind of the benefits of that with this finals trip.
The whole team is scary, right? You published a piece earlier today grading the Thunder players for their performance in the series. Could you walk us through your evaluations a bit? What stood out to you about each player, and what should we be keeping an eye as we head into the finals?
Yeah, in this series, you really saw, I guess, the big three start to become a real big three. Like we saw stints of it, and glimpses of it throughout the years. But I feel like this series was the first time you really saw Shea, J-Dub, and Chet really be on the same page together, click together, and just destroy the Wolves this series. You have Shea being an efficient 30-point scorer again in the playoffs. He kind of started off slow a little bit in the playoffs against the Grizzlies, but has really turned it around here since then, where he's probably been the best player in the whole league in these playoffs. You have Jada, being that second go-to option. That was a big question mark for a lot of people. Like, was Jada a good enough number two? We kind of saw him kind of crater against Dallas last year, and so far this year, like he's been excellent for OKC. He's been inefficient. 20 plus points per game, bringing elite wing defense, bulldozing his way to the basket, getting to the free throw line. His jumper's starting to fall as well. And then Chet, it feels like Chet. The deeper the Thunder go into the playoffs, the better he's been playing. Like this series was probably his best series of the three so far on both ends of the floor. Where what he brings defensively as a rim protector, but on the other end, like Chet's been a monster inside the paint. Whether it's him cleaning up his teammates' misses for second chance points or him being a lob threat, and you're starting to see his outside shot kind of come turn the corner as well here recently as well. So really, those three guys, like if you're going to go to the West Finals, you want it to be because those three guys stepped up and were 3 of the 5 best players. And you're starting to and you're starting to finally see that here in the West Finals. And if you're the Thunder, you just kind of hope that momentum, carries over to whoever they face in the NBA Finals.
Oh, for sure. And looking ahead to the finals, since you mentioned, it's likely we'll face a team that also drives in transition and feeds off opponents' turnovers. What do you see as the key factors or matchups in this potential series against the Pacers?
Yeah, I mean, Halliburton is probably the top guy you got to worry about. Like, I think he's probably the best playmaker, or one of the best playmakers in the league. So he's gonna be a guy you're gonna have to like really limit. And you got like 3 guys you can throw at him, and like I said, Caruso, Gordon, and Wallace, and like you can even throw Jada about him if you need to. So he'll be the guy you need to slow down the most. You got Siakam and Turner are pretty talented front court as well. Siakam's had a big playoffs, so you're probably gonna have to limit him as well. I'll be interested to see just how much or how playable Hardenstein is in this series because against Minnesota he didn't really play a ton for them. He had kind of play off the floor a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see like how that changes with a different front court where Siakam and Turner are a little bit more skill reliant and perimeter, and it could be more of a perimeter scorer than Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert were. And then obviously not Minnesota. Indiana has a pretty decent bench. With Nembhard. Well, he doesn't come up to bench; he's a starter, but Nembhard's a good player. McConnell. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Like against either opponent, I think the Thunder are probably gonna be heavily favored to win the series. But Indiana, like they bring their problems as they've been the best offense in the league, and when you match up the best offense against the best defense, that'll always be something to tune in to watch for. But yeah, like I said, they should be the favorite either way.
Thunder in 5, maybe?
Hey, I mean, like Shay said yesterday, he wanted to win the West Finals in front of his fans, so maybe.
Yeah, I'm rooting for that too. For those of us supporting this team from afar, from across the world, and especially here in Brazil, sometimes it's hard to fully grasp what the Thunder meant to the local community. This week, for example, Westbrook announced a new community projects in Yokohama years after leaving the team, and it speaks volumes. From your perspective, what does it mean for Oklahoma City, not just as a basketball town, but as a community to have the best team in the NBA right now?
It means a whole ton just because the Thunder just are the only professional sports team in OKC, um, which I don't know how many other NBA teams can say that. Probably maybe a couple more. So that just means you get that much more attention, that much more focus, that much more passion from your fan base just because you're the only team in town. Um, so it's been super cool to see, like I said, the city kind of decorate itself and supporting OKC. Um, like I said, you can't drive more than 5 miles without seeing some sort of without seeing the Thunder logo in some way, shape, or form, whether it's flagged or a shirt or a hat or whatever. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Thunder, since they moved in OKC, have been known to have like one of the best fan bases in the league, and you always hear teams and players talk about just how loud it can get in the playoff environment. And I remember last year I asked Jonas Valanciunas when he was with the Pelicans, like just how much of a disadvantage that can be, and he told me basically like, yeah, it's tough to like even hear your own teammates on the court just because of how loud it is, and that could create some communication issues. Um, so being able to like be at every Thunder playoff game so far these last 2 years, and being able to like be in these environments, like I can definitely tell you that what he said is definitely true, and I bet a ton of other players would agree with it, would agree with that from just their own personal experience. But yeah, like I said, it's just been super dope to kind of see the whole city and state kind of come together. The deeper to go into the playoffs, and now that they're in the West, or now that they're in the NBA Finals, I'm expecting that relationship to grow even stronger.
Just to wrap things up, do you feel like the Thunder team, considering how young and deep it is, might be just getting started? Could this be the beginning of a new era of sustained contention in OKC?
No, yeah, for sure. Like I compared this team to, I guess, the 2015 Warriors, not from their play style or whatever, but just from like where they're at with this
Their
team. And
potential, right?
yeah, their potential. I mean, you have Shea, who's 26 years old, like he's right in his prime, already an MVP winner. Um, Jada just turned 24 years old. Chet's 24 years old. Um, presumably speaking, you're probably gonna have all three of those guys locked down for the foreseeable future. You'll see Dub and Chet get extended this off season once they're eligible, and Shea, maybe Shea this year or next year as well. But he has no reason to leave. Like he said multiple times, he loves being here, and like he's not gonna leave a title winner. Like straight up, nobody will. Um, so those three guys are like the face of your franchise. They play so well together. That's like the ideal big three right there, where there's no real overlap of skills. I mean, you got the guard, wing, center trio right there. Um, so I feel like as long as those three guys are here, and Mark's here, um, they'll be in the title conversation for the foreseeable future. And that doesn't even include like the amount of guys they have on the roster right now, where Payson Wallace looks like one of the best perimeter defenders. Lou Dortz was in DPOY combos this year. Hardenstein's under contract for one more year. Joe and Wiggins are solid role players. And then you got Topic, kind of quietly rehabbing and developing in the background. And then that doesn't even include that doesn't even include the draft picks that they got lined up as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
This team is just stupid deep, and they got a stupid amount of assets where they can really do anything if they wanted to. And I didn't even mention Caruso's under guys. Well, like this team is just set up for the future for a while.
Some Presti, Trepid, everybody in the NBA now they just have to go with it, right?
No, yeah, like give him credit because he saw a market deficiency a little bit with kind of the hoarding of draft picks, and I remember at the time people were like, why is he trading for so many draft picks? Like they're not going to be able to use all these picks. There's not enough roster spots. And now you're kind of seeing people kind of realize like, oh yeah, that's probably the smartest thing to do with the new CBA and limited roster spots and just the hard cap and all that. So yeah, I mean, he's got this locked down for the foreseeable future, man.
Yeah, for sure. Clemente, thank you so much for the chat. Hope we chat again after to talk about the title, maybe. Just tell everyone your socials, where to find you, and your texts. They are pretty great, by the way. And I hope we can meet in Paycon soon to watch our Thunder together.
No, yeah, for sure. You can find me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. At Almanza 1007. That's CALMANZA 1007. And then you can find my work at okcthunderwire.com. Like I said, daily articles there every day, even during the busiest and slowest times of the year. And yeah, I mean, if you want local coverage, if you want to read somebody or follow somebody that's been with the team every day for the last 3 years and have had a firsthand experience and kind of seen them kind of grow to what they are right now, I would definitely recommend, giving me a follow on Twitter and reading my pieces if you can, for sure.
Great, thank you for the chat. Let's go, Thunder. Let's see in the finals, right?
No, yeah, for sure.
OKC encerra as finais de Conferência do Oeste com uma vitória de 30 pontos, 124-94, fecha a série em 4-1, apenas 4 derrotas até chegar às finais de NBA, e desde o primeiro quarto o Thunder mostrou que está em outra prateleira. Forçou erro, roubou bola, finalizou em transição, uma defesa absolutamente sufocante, que é a tônica desse time, com um ritmo ofensivo que agora está combinando com o que a gente viu durante a temporada toda do lado oposto. A gente tem um ritmo defensivo que foi sufocante a temporada inteira e que agora tem um ritmo ofensivo para combinar. Pós Denver Nuggets, nós somos outra equipe ofensivamente, inclusive. Primeiro quarto termina em 26-9, com o Wolves acertando apenas 3 de 20 arremessos e cometendo 4 turnovers. O Shai, no primeiro período, marca 12 pontos. Sozinho ele supera a pontuação do Wolves. O Thunder segue dominante até o intervalo. Termina a primeira etapa 65-32 no placar, no momento em que o Wolves já tinha mais turnovers, 14, do que cestas convertidas, que eram 12. E ao final da partida, o OKC lidera em aproveitamento de arremessos, de bola de 3, de lance livre, de rebote, além de forçar 21 turnovers. Obviamente, vamos começar por ele, né? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander confirma, mais uma vez, a sua temporada histórica. De forma unânime, ele ganhou o MVP das finais de Conferência do Oeste, tendo marcado nesse jogo 34 pontos, 8 assistências, 7 rebotes e 2 roubos de bola. Ele já tinha sido decisivo antes, ele foi decisivo com 35 pontos no jogo 7 contra o Denver, por exemplo, no último jogo em que jogou muito bem, foi um jogo mais parelho. Ele é o primeiro MVP da temporada regular a alcançar as finais desde o Stephen Curry em 2015 e 2016. Ele recebeu o troféu e ele tenta passar para todo mundo, né? Um espírito coletivo absurdo. A primeira coisa que ele faz quando ele recebe o troféu dele de MVP é jogar nos braços dos outros jogadores, né? Ele é um jogador que entende muito o papel que ele tem dentro desse time e confia e precisa também dos jogadores que estão junto dele nessa missão. Assim como em 2012, quando o Durant, o Westbrook e o Harden levam o Thunder às finais da NBA, a gente tem um novo Big Three se destacando. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren e Jalen Williams. O Chet ontem foi essencial para proteger o aro. Além de ter marcado 22 pontos, 7 rebotes, ele deu 3 tocos e para espaçar defensivamente e ofensivamente essa equipe. Jalen Williams é o nosso copiloto dos sonhos, 19 pontos, 8 rebotes, 5 assistências, dominando em todos os momentos em que ele precisava dominar. E a gente pôde ver como a química entre os três é sólida, né? Capacidade de decisão dos dois lados da quadra. E eu sei, é difícil não comparar com 2012. É talvez inevitável. Mas dessa vez, o Thunder parece um pouco mais equilibrado, um pouco mais preparado para conquistar o título. E mais do que isso, é um time que não carrega nenhum fantasma de tudo que deu errado antes para essa equipe. A gente não tem o jogador que ficou e tá buscando redenção, não. É uma nova equipe, um novo time, com a mesma vontade de vencer, mas sem todos aqueles fantasmas que pareciam perseguir a gente para sempre, né? Um grande trunfo do Thunder nesses playoffs continua sendo a defesa. Ela volta a brilhar no jogo 5, o Mark faz alguns ajustes e ele até destaca que a atuação defensiva no primeiro tempo foi a melhor possível. Eu ouso dizer que foi a melhor da temporada. Absurdo o que a gente faz defensivamente nesse primeiro tempo do jogo 5. A gente impôs o ritmo e desarmou o ataque do Wolves com uma intensidade e uma inteligência que eu, particularmente, nunca vi. Não existe defesa como a defesa do Oklahoma, especialmente ontem. O Minnesota teve dificuldade até nas ações mais básicas. Driblar, passar, arremessar. Quando criava essas boas oportunidades, muitas vezes a bola não caía. O Thunder foi projetado para massacrar defensivamente. Isso tem sido executado de forma exemplar nos playoffs. Contra o Memphis, contra o Minnesota, contra o Denver Nuggets, diga-se de passagem. O nosso denominador comum em todas essas séries é como defensivamente nós fomos impecáveis. Anthony Edwards, 23 anos, chega à sua segunda final de conferência consecutiva, o que é muito raro para jogadores jovens como ele, mas novamente é superado. E novamente por uma outra estrela jovem. Acho que, embora ele tenha talento e confiança para ser um dos melhores, ele teve períodos apagados nessa série e uma falta de resposta para tentar ajudar seu time que vão fazer ele repensar muita coisa sobre a formação do time, óbvio, e também sobre como ele joga. A defesa de OKC fez questão de ser decisiva com relação a ele e de expor tudo aquilo que ele precisa melhorar, tudo aquilo que ele pode e que eu acredito que ele vai, inclusive. Anthony Edwards é um fenômeno, é um cara muito bom, tem ao seu redor peças essenciais, mas eu acho que nesses playoffs especialmente ficou claro do quanto ele precisa de um armador primário para que leve a bola, desafogue ele das ações e para que ele possa ser o shooting guard, que ele é excelente, diga-se de passagem. Esse Wolves vai ter um verão importante, né? Decisões cruciais vão chegar, o Julius Randle tem uma player option, o Naz Reid e o Nickeil Alexander-Walker vão testar o mercado. Manter esses três pode levar a equipe a second apron, diga-se de passagem, que acarreta várias penalidades financeiras, limitações no elenco. E o Julius Randle, embora tenha tido momentos excelentes nos playoffs até as finais, na final ele demonstrou falhas cruciais. Se ele sai, o Wolves praticamente não terão retorno pela troca que envolveu o Karl Anthony Towns, né? Então, manter ou não ele... Corta essa parte até o Towns. E aí você tem Naz Reid e Gobert, que também pode gerar um custo alto para a posição de pivô, que é uma posição que a NBA inteira está desesperada, com exceção daqueles que já têm grandes pivôs, então terão que pensar bastante. Já não é uma folha salarial tão barata. Após 68 vitórias na temporada regular, um desempenho dominante nos playoffs, chegamos às finais, eu acho que chegamos inclusive como amplos favoritos, independente de quem enfrentar, seja o Pacers ou seja o Knicks. Nós vencemos os dois times na temporada regular, 3 dessas vitórias por dígitos duplos. A defesa do Pacers e do Knicks ainda não enfrentou algo semelhante à intensidade do Thunder, e se for o caso do Pacers, o que é muito provável, a gente vai ter uma prévia bem mais profunda sobre todos os aspectos dos jogos dos dois times e tudo mais. É o melhor ataque contra a melhor defesa. A ver, né, Zê? Finalmente eu vou poder falar que grandes defesas vencem campeonatos. Mas é uma equipe que, pós-guerra, né, chega muito completa. Muito jovem, óbvio, mas muito profunda, muito resiliente, muito disciplinada, que, defensivamente falando, é uma das melhores características que um jogador pode ter. Fazer exatamente aquilo que o treinador pede para que ele faça. São só 4 vitórias para coroar a melhor temporada da franquia desde a chegada em Oklahoma e, quem sabe, o primeiro título da história da cidade. Essa história ainda está sendo escrita. É impossível não pensar no futuro, mas vamos nos ater ao momento, vamos comemorar o que aconteceu e nos preparar fisicamente e psicologicamente para sobrevivermos às finais de conferência. Só para finalizar, Caruso, 8 pontos, 3 rebotes, 3 assistências e 4 roubos de bola, com 20% de field goal que a gente nem percebe, né? Isaiah Hartenstein, 8 pontos, 5 rebotes, tem jogado um pouco menos nessa série, porque não era o melhor matchup, o Mark soube identificar isso ainda no meio da série para garantir. E Lu Dort, né, quero falar dele, 12 pontos, 4 rebotes, 1 assistência, 3 roubos de bola, 38 minutos jogados, um plus-minus de 24, né, que é o segundo maior plus-minus do jogo de ontem. Apreciem o Lu Dort, apreciem bastante o jogador que ele é. O campeão que ele será em 2 semanas, se tudo der certo. Espero que vocês tenham gostado do episódio, com 3 partes separadas. Eu só voltarei a falar do Thunder na prévia. Essa noite nós temos mais um jogo de Knicks e Pacers. O jogo volta ao Garden, num cenário em que o Knicks perdeu mais do que venceu por lá, em que o Indiana praticamente ganhou todas as suas partidas fora de casa, numa série para decidir, que muito se parece com essa do Wolves. O Knicks é um excelente time também, mas o Pacers tem todas as respostas. Eles vão precisar de mais um dia perfeito ou mais um dia inspirado de Karl Anthony Towns. A ver.